Hey everybody, welcome to No Breakaways, your source for all the virtual racing tips and tricks. I am here with a young man. We just met the other day. This is apparently Jordan Shane's very much younger brother, 9 or 10 years old. If you're listening on the podcast, which I will eventually release, just picture like a 9-year-old sitting next to me.
A
Jordan,
9-year-old.
what's
But
going
then
on?
I start talking. I don't sound like a 9-year-old.
No, you sound more
But
manly than I do, but
yeah, see, I try to go a long time between shaves so I can actually look somewhere close to my age. But just
yeah.
shaved just for this video cast, and look, I look like I'm 12 or
Yeah,
9.
I know you look very young, very young. And he's wearing a shirt that says Jordan on it, which pretty odd. I mean, you know, really I'm just jealous. That's the main
Yeah,
reason.
you don't have. There's no Rick brand. Like there's no Jumpman Rick. So I mean,
No,
I
no.
literally have like 6 T-shirts that have Jordan written on them.
Yeah, there is a
It gives you
Wanger.
an insight to my maybe I'm a childlike psyche as well because I enjoy that quite a bit.
I would do. Yeah, there's a Wanger watch brand, and then there's a Wanger trucking company.
Well,
I do have a Wanger watch, and I should get like a
perfect.
Wanger bag.
You don't have a truck. Oh, you
No,
didn't
I didn't get my
say
CDL to do that. So yeah, so Jordan, Elevate Webaplex, peakformcoaching.com. You can see it down there or just go to it. Hire Jordan. I promise he will up your FTP by 400 watts. Okay, maybe not, but he'll up your FTP. That I can promise you.
perfect.
Yeah.
All right. So yeah, busy week for me actually I'm fully in Zwift world at the moment because it is winter up here on the mountain, or at least it has been. So I've been 100% on Zwift. I've been racing. I've been DSing. I've been watching Premier League. I am like Zwift insider this time around. So
Oh, Eric's
where
Eric's
where
gonna
to
sue you.
begin?
Eric's gonna
Yeah,
sue you.
I've been living Eric Schlange's life basically. I just screw around
Schlangy,
on Zwift all day.
Schlangy. We went over this with him. We remember we talked about this on air.
Right.
Schlangy.
And how do you say my name again?
Shane?
Yeah, okay, you got it. Cool,
Yeah,
cool, cool. All
I
right.
say
I
it
thought I
right.
got a pass on that because my name is never pronounced correctly,
Oh no,
but
I asked you the
um
first when we did the Road to Worlds interview, which
and you
we're
just
I don't yeah, we're going to talk about Worlds today. I see it's not on the agenda today, but I'm just going to shove it in cuz that's just whatever. We go on tangents, what we do. All right, so let's hear about these Swift races, Jordan. Let's hear about this DSing. We can compare our DSing experience.
yeah. Oh, well, I'll cover the racing real quick. I mean, it's been good. I've been training and just trying to like gradually get back into things, and I mean, I'm out of shape and I'm at altitude, but like if I can sort of sit in these races and make a few moves and call it a decent like tempo plus session, and it passes the time better than anything else, right? Like you definitely blink your eyes and like 50 minutes is over. And although along the way it feels very long. It's a weird thing that way, actually. But yeah, I've just tried actually to do a bunch of different ones, picking the ones with the most people in them because it's some of them are just depressing. Like there's like 4 guys signed up or something. So I did the Netherlands a couple times, their weekly race. One of them was very nice pace for me, and then the next week, like Tungles and all the Premier League guys showed up, and it wasn't so nice.
People following you
Um,
around, huh? They're like, "Oh,
yeah, right.
Jordan
They're like Jordan
Cheyenne showed
Shane's
up."
in this. You beat him while he's down. Um, I think maybe my favorite of the week was today. I did a German one, and I won't attempt to pronounce it. Uh, but it was pretty cool. It was the Gotham Grind course in NYC, which I've never done before. 3K course, like less than, and it's got some rollers in it. And like, I mean, I'm terrible at that power band. Like, it's like 20-second efforts, but I enjoyed it. You know, it's kind of back and forth, and it was a good crew. There was no Premier Leaguers there, which makes the enjoyment higher. Um, yeah, and generally the racing's good. I mean, I have a few. The drafting stuff still isn't. I mean, I wish we could go back, which is crazy to say, but I wish we could go back
Agreed.
because it sometimes is so friggin' frustrating. Like as a small rider, I get boned so hard when I try to take an attack. Yeah, and I said that.
Yeah,
That
it's
yeah, and that's
live
what it
forever.
feels like too. I get off the front and like I can be doing 6 and the guys behind are doing like 3.5 and they're like, yeah, we'll see you again soon, buddy.
Yeah.
Um, and then the only other frustration is that I feel like can be fixed maybe easily is like I like to attack. I know I'm not going anywhere. I know I'm not winning. I like to try stuff. But every time I get caught, I go straight through the pack, even if I'm doing $6 a kilo. Why? Why? Why do I have to be punished this way?
Pack speed,
You
buddy.
know?
Pack speed.
It crushes me. It discourages attacking. Like no one wants to go with you because they don't want to get punched on both sides of it, you know? So I don't know, but overall it's good times. Like it's good to race and not take it too seriously.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, so that's been nice. And yeah, the DSing was great. Actually, I got an opportunity with Agawatt to DS on the ZRL. I actually did the one of their C women's teams, which was brand new to me. I've never obviously raced C or watched a C race or how it unfolds, and it was great. It was exciting. Like I learned a lot about it. The gaps in that are much more flexible than in A racing. Like it blew apart right away,
Right.
and there's like 7 packs on the road, and they're just coming back and forth, and the speed of it is slightly lower, so it's actually just like a drag race almost. And the women did well. I think top finisher was 6th, and we took both the sprints for maximum points. I think so. There's a hitter there, Jen Grollo, I think, was the hitter on the sprints. And yeah, good times. I mean, I have a little qualm with the course design for the C's because it was cut off early, and so you had the marina sprint, and then you had the finish line 500 meters later in an ambiguous place, like just the middle of the road. And so you like sprint, re-sprint.
Wait, wasn't it at the Aqueduct KOM?
No, it was 500 meters after the
pave sprint.
the marina sprint. Yeah, it wasn't even. It was like 470 meters or something.
The one in the middle of the country.
Yeah, just the middle of nowhere. So yeah, and there was a sprint after 800 meters, which was kind of interesting to watch. But I would have been so angry if that was my race. Like, holy crap, that's terrible. But good times, and I love DSing actually. I really enjoy it because like I picked up a lot of tactics on the road, so I can provide something. But I'm also learning a lot because I've never DS'd the categories I'm working with. So, and the women are way more fun to work with because there's just like a whole bunch more possibilities. I really enjoy it.
Yeah, I DS'd the draft B guys. That was interesting. We had a pretty good plan going into the race, and we, for the most part, executed it up the petite KOM. We got a good break. There was only 8 or 9 dudes in the pack after that, and they held it for a long time. But the pack behind them was like 15 and ended up catching them. They had a 30-second gap on them at one point.
Wow.
And they caught them. They were working harder than the front pack, but not, in my opinion. I was really surprised they caught them. I mean, a 30-second gap, you better be working really hard. So I think what was happening is we were seeing, the pack dynamics in Zwift have some sort of, I think, non-linear curve in terms of speed and the drafting mechanism and stuff. Because we had a guy in that second pack too. We had 3 in the front group of 9. Or no, 4. We had 4 in the front group of 9 and 1 guy in the second pack. So we wanted it to stay away. But also we weren't doing a ton of work. I don't know if we should have, but yeah, I mean, like our guy in the second group was doing 2.5, 2.7 in the middle of the pack. And they were, I'm shocked.
And that we don't, and that's weird too, because it's an unknown, and it feels like we should know that by now. Like a group of 9, from everything that people say, it's like, oh, if it's a group of 5 or more, you get the blob effect. Like, no, that's not true. Yeah. And we had the same thing in the women's race. We had a group of 5, and then there was like 3 leaders out front, and so they were going for 4th or 5th behind. And I was like, okay, group of 5, you got to roll this. Like, keep going. There was a group behind that was going to catch potentially. And I was like, no, you can roll this. It's just as effective. Well, the group behind caught, and it became a group of 11. And all of a sudden, they just turbo catching that gap. And they didn't have enough time at the end to catch them, but they would have.
Yeah.
No increase in watts per kilogram, just like it went from 5 to 11. And all of a sudden, it was like, So, yeah, it's a little frustrating that way. Maybe if you DS enough, you just kind of know. But
I mean, I feel like I'm pretty good at Zwifting, like the racecraft of Zwift. Like I'm not great at tactics, and maybe I am in Zwift because there aren't that many. Like I thought
Yeah,
that group of nine, there was so little difference in the size of the packs. Where I was like, I told the four guys in front because they were like, well, should we work? And I was like, you don't have to work. Like you're going about the same watts per kilo, maybe a little bit lower, but there shouldn't
yeah.
be a difference in pack dynamics at that point.
30
And
seconds, right? 30
yeah, I
seconds.
mean,
Yeah.
I was obviously totally wrong. And I mean, the people in the back group, some of the guys, to their credit, were started drilling it.
Yeah.
They'd hop up to five, but I think they were coming through and just. I think what was happening is they were in the back and they'd sprint up through and get the pack speed going, and then they'd just take a rest, and I think that
Yeah.
again, it's just like it's just the way Zwift is, and like I don't. I think there are things that it's easy to get frustrated about with Zwift, but as
Yes.
we're going to talk about, Zwift is a game, and you have to learn how
Yeah.
to play the game. It's just like World of Warcraft, or like let's say Call of Duty. You can't be pissed if you shoot someone in the arm and they don't just go down like in real life, right? It's just a game. It's
Yeah.
just you got to play the game however you play the game, right?
Yeah.
And
No,
that's where I
100%.
am with Zwift. Like, yeah,
I just feel like sometimes those intricacies, not sometimes, oftentimes, they lead to the same conclusion of the race every time.
yeah,
And so it's like, yeah, that's how you play the game, but like it sucks. It'd be like chess, except you just have queens or something, right? It's like, oh, this is just how it's gonna go because this it's set. This is how it's gonna go, and you can tell I don't play much chess,
Well,
but
I think my frustration is around the fact that we don't understand. Like
yes,
like for the amount of time I've spent
oh
messing with
yeah,
Zwift, I would have thought that I would have understood those gaps
yeah,
better. And obviously, I mean, I was just completely wrong. And like credit to my team, they still killed it because they're freaking amazing riders, all six of them. But
yeah,
like, you know, it doesn't feel like anyone knows. Like
yeah, for sure.
actually know like understands how to deal with those like if the people on the front, if those nine, if they would have gotten TT line and been drilling it, could they have stayed away? Like I just don't understand the pack dynamics.
Yeah, yeah, and we talk about it as an esport. The other esports, like that see massive success, the rules are the rules, and everybody knows how it's going to go, right? Like
Yeah,
you play World of Warcraft, and like, yeah, you shoot someone in the head, they die. And in this, it's like, oh, sometimes they do.
right.
It's like we don't really know. So it'd be nice to clean that stuff up a little bit, but we could do a whole episode on that,
Yeah.
which we got other stuff to talk about today.
Let's do it. Okay. Let's talk about
Uh,
Premier League.
yeah, quick rundown on Premier League. We don't need to spend too much time because we have interesting stuff to talk about later. And this was kind of the same old stuff for Premier League. There was a couple hills that could potentially have changed the outcome, largely did not. The women's race, there was way more attrition than the men's. I mean, there is attrition on both sides. The Petit KOM is a pretty decent climb, but um, both races, it was kind of like watching the same thing over again each lap. Like there'd be an attack over the top, and they just stopped. Even though, like, Tungles had a decent gap in the men's race, and I forget who had the gap in the women's race. They'd have like 6 or 8 seconds at the top, and it's like 3K downhill to go. They just sat up because there's no chance.
Hmm.
There's just no chance, and they know it. Like, they know that descent rules, and the pack behind is going to catch. So game theory, they're like, oh well, no chance of winning that way. So, and that's what happened. They got caught every time. And in the women's, there's a new champ on the block, Adagis. I don't know much about her, but she's crushing. She's
Oh
two
yeah.
from two now.
Is that the
Um,
Aeonian
yeah,
woman?
that's
Yeah.
right. Yeah. So I hadn't heard of her before this season, but she's two from two in the races, which is awesome. And her team is actually in a three-way tie with Pino and Canyon for the lead right now, which is great, right? Ino was winning everything every time last time. Three-way, which we haven't seen even on the men's side. It's usually like Saris and Canyon only right at
And
the top.
now
But
next esports.
well, I'm getting to that.
Oh, okay, okay.
Yeah, well, and yeah, so on the men's side, Kirkmare ended up taking the sprint from Thrall. It was actually a nice sprint to watch. You had that recovery downhill, so everybody had a bunch of punch in the legs, and some guys went long, and Kirkmare timed it just right and took it. Yeah, Next is now leading the series from Canyon, I believe. So yeah, new kid on the block, and they're crushing it. They won the first two races. So
I mean, kind of new kid, because Next was in there and Insured was in there, and now they're
right, so they're like a hybrid.
yeah.
But still not one of the major two, Canyon and Ceres, which is nice to see. So yeah, and I think it'll be interesting over the next few weeks. We don't have the dominant teams, so maybe those teams that were formerly dominant will have to shake things up if they want to win. Because clearly, if it's coming down to the sprints the way it is, Next is they have the riders, so they're gonna take this thing. So yeah, we'll see if it's possible to shake it up. But yeah, it was a decent race. It's just typical finish, sprint finish, reduced bunch. Not too many meaningful attacks, but always decent to watch. GCN is doing a pretty good job of packaging it. One note for the commentators in GCN: just because a rider escapes off the front randomly, sometimes you shoot through the pack and you get like a half a second gap. That is not an attack. If they're doing 3 watts a kilogram and they open up a second gap, it's not an attack. You don't need and now they've gone up the front. It's like, no, just relax. I know it's boring sometimes. Just relax. Anyway, minor graph, great, but yeah, it's a good watching experience with GCN. So
yeah, it's going to be interesting to see if Zwift makes any changes to, I mean, more or less like make attacks a thing, because
yeah,
I mean it's pretty well documented, right? I mean, we're called no breakaways. Like
yeah,
it's like an inside joke. I mean, a lot of it, like guys sitting up like that, you don't want to see that at your highest level. Excuse me, racing.
no.
It'll be
Not
interesting to see.
a race that's an hour long, right? Like if you had a pro race with these athletes an hour long in real life, oh my God, it would be exciting.
Yeah.
Right? Because you just go for broke. It's just an hour, it's a crit, but not a crit. It could be very dynamic. But yeah, there's definitely a sense of the foregone conclusion. This is how it's going to go. So I will see. It wasn't a named priority in the new release that we're going to talk about to change racing dynamics.
Yeah.
So don't hold your breath.
Yeah. Do you wanna go straight into it? I mean, we got another. We're going to talk about 2 bridges, but it's probably more of the same, realistically.
Yeah, I mean that I did look at that. I write up a note. It's going to be the sprintiest of sprinters races, right? So maybe just tune in for the last kilometer of that. Unless I think last time Bruce Bird attacked and Usburn attacked, these big powerhouses made it kind of interesting. So that'd be cool. But yeah, I would say Kirkmare again, probably from the men's and Next to top the to stack the top 10. And yeah, Ada Geese she won clear. She could have sat up at the end, So yeah, she looks pretty unbeatable in the sprint, but we shall see.
Did Bruce Bird race in the last race?
I think so.
He just got second or third in the World Grand Fondo Championship.
Yeah, he's pretty good for that. Yeah, the Grand Fondo.
Shout out to Bruce Bird, killing it.
Shout out to I coached Esta Boville on Zwift last year for Ceres. I think she was silver in her category in the same race.
Nice.
So there's a couple legit Zwifters for you.
There's a lot of legit Zwifters for sure.
Yeah.
All right, so big news of the week: the new Zwift plans. I'm gonna just go ahead right up front. Just big props to Zwift on this. I've been fairly critical. What are you guys working on? Sort of, obviously, what you've been working on. Shout out to the Zwift team for pushing out something big. So, Jordan, why don't you take us through it, and we'll have some discussion.
All right. So I think we'll go in reverse order of maybe importance on this, because the clubs thing is pretty massive, and we're going to talk about that for a while. But I mean, first things first, they're expanding the Japan map. which is Rick and I talked just before the broadcast started. It's needed. Like McCurry is kind of a dead map in my opinion. There's not the racing is decent on it, but like to ride around, you're done with it in half an hour basically. So yeah, I think and it'll be interesting because it's going to be contrast, so it'll be dark all the time. Which is what they're calling it contrast. I call it Super Mario because that is exactly what it looks like. Is
Rainbow
like Rainbow Road.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Like Emily had that up on the TV playing it today, and I was like, "Oh my god!" You know, I pulled up the new map, and I was like, "Yeah, pretty similar." So, I mean, if you like Mario, maybe this is and racing will be fun. I think that'll be cool, right? You can, you know, you're Super Mario, but on bikes, perhaps. So, and a preliminary look at the map, like it looks like there's a lot of little small circuits that could be possible in there. So yeah, I think that's needed for that map, needed for Zwift in general. Like we were talking, there's not enough good race courses.
Yeah.
Like race courses are usually circuits, like kind of like 10-minute long at the most, maybe 6-minute. And we got Crit City right now, and then some other maps kind of like that have hodgepodged it together. But we could actually have some really good race circuits that you could plug and play on this one. Because those are fun, you know. And Crit City was released 2 years ago, and people love it. But yeah, it's been a while. People love it, but there's not been another map like that since. And so hopefully we get something in there.
Well, I mean, it's Crit City is the most popular race course for sure.
Of course, it would be, right? It would be.
Yeah.
And well, the thing about these short courses is they maximize the power ups, right? And that makes it fun. Like, you know, that's yeah, it's part of it at least, right? And maybe the steering goes well with that as well, from what I've seen. I don't know if that's sort of a dead issue right now, but yeah. I don't know. What are your thoughts on the course, Rick? I know you're not huge on the new courses, but
no, it's not that I'm not huge on the new courses. It's that like I don't want Mount Fuji or Mount Ventoux or like I just don't want any like I want just race courses. Like more race courses. Like I don't need more roads to just ride around on. I don't
that's right.
I like riding around on the courses now, but I don't really pay that much attention to them. Like I want good race courses, whatever that means, right? And so like if this provides good race courses, I'm totally down with it. But I don't want new roads just for new scenery. Cuz like
Right.
you know, kind of like you just said about Mercury or is it Yumizumi? I don't really understand which one is which, but like it was fine at first, but like I don't need anything more than Watopia to ride around in. But I want more stuff to race in. I want more Crit City like courses, but with different tactics, different stuff like that. I know everybody talks about a velodrome. I know RGT has a velodrome. I just saw where they do
I don't really
elimination
get
races.
that.
What's that?
I don't really get the velodrome thing. I don't. Maybe it's because I would suck at it, but it's like I don't
would do
know.
it.
You have a 1 kilometer course, or Crit City is 2 kilometers. Maybe you could make a crit course that was 4 corners. I don't know why you would want a velodrome.
Yeah, I mean, I don't care as much about a velodrome, but I like what RGT was doing because like elimination race where the bottom two are off every time. It'd be cool.
Yeah.
Like I want cool race courses like Chris City,
Yeah.
like Innsbruck, except with less time not doing anything. Although I love that's one of my favorite courses. Richmond's a pretty good race course. Lots of good stuff in New York. But then like I want new formats too, you know, to go with them. Like an elimination race, like a whatever.
Yeah. Well, I think there's a meeting of the minds perhaps on this because I do like new roads and new scenery because I ride long on the platform a lot. But I actually think that maybe with the exception of Crit City because it's so short and limited, that the best racing courses are the best riding courses because they're rolling. You're not headed up a 20-minute climb. Like there's a place for that in training, but in terms of just spending time getting a nice ride in, like San and Sequoia is my favorite because of the rolling hills. New York is always a favorite because of the rolling hills, and those are the best racing is through that kind of terrain. So yeah, I'm really hoping as a racer that there is a smaller crit course, like maybe a kilometer, maybe like a minute 20, loop, and then you could maybe lap the field.
That'd be cool.
Because, well, that's part of crit racing, and I know the drafting dynamics don't lend themselves to that. But if it was short enough and you could get 20 or 30 seconds off the front, and then the back of the pack was back there with some power ups every lap, you could do it, and that'd be exciting. And Premier League, holy crap, would that be exciting potentially, right? So yeah, good possibilities on the new map. I mean, at the end of the day, it's just another new map, but I mean, it's been a little while, I guess. McCurry wasn't really, it's a small thing. So yeah, 30 new K or something there, and a bit of a Mario feel. So interesting.
I like
but
the
I
riding
think,
at night. I'm very pro the entire thing being night.
yeah, I think so too. You don't on Zwift, you don't get that yet, really, do you? You get rain, which is incomprehensible. Why would I want to ride in the rain? I know
It's
that's a trope, but
Isn't
like
it raining
seriously,
all the time there in the new one?
is it? No, the roads are wet. They've done like like they do in movies, right? The roads look good wet, and so
Oh,
they're always wet.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Well, I like the
So
Neo
it'll
Tokyo.
listen, right? You'll see your reflection. I think that'll be cool.
Yeah. No, I like the Neo Tokyo thing. I mean, that's a song title. And yeah, there's a whole bunch of Neo this and that right now. So
Yeah, we need Neo. Well, this whole thing is Neo, um, because I think maybe the biggest deal for Zwift as a company in this update is actually the interface update, because it's actually going to look like a real product now and not like a cartoon. Not in the maps, not in ride experience, but the load up screen and presumably the app as well. Will have this more fresh, crisp look. Like, I think it's bringing it into the modern design of games and applications. And I think that's a big deal, especially for them wanting to sell this thing. Like, what do investors look at? They look at your panels of the different, the art for the game. And right now, it doesn't look like something that's worth $1 billion. I'm sorry. But well, that's what they're going to want, right? With the investment they've had, is this is going to be a big, I mean, not in tech, but a big company for the rest of us, and it doesn't look like that. So I think that's, from the preliminary view, we'll see how well it works, because it did take them like 6 years to have an exit button, on the thing, right? So like this is a lot of exit buttons and a lot of different things to go on. So we'll see. But yeah, and right now I'll admit, as a new user, if I try to put myself in that mind frame, when you boot it up, like events over here, courses, workouts, it's all like pretty tight and confusing. So I can see that. But that's a big
yeah.
update though for them, right? Man hours. So I don't know.
I think the thing that, and I mean, I'm just stuck on racing because that's what I'm stuck on. But I mean, I read in the DC Rainmaker thing, I think it was DC Rainmaker, whatever, that there's going to be a lot more race options, which I
Yes.
just thought was incredibly odd. Like I'm
Yeah.
I'm glad they're updating the interface. Like it's well needed. You need to be able to sort by, like, because right now you can't do events unless you have the app. Like
Oh yeah.
I don't even know
Impossible.
how to get to other events unless you have the
And
app.
even that doesn't work. I was going to say, because today was a new update and it was buggy. And then there's another thing I noticed just in general. Like event selection isn't very good right now.
Yeah.
The app isn't that good. Like it doesn't play super well. The thing over here on the main screen is useless,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
It doesn't tell you anything about the events. And like, and also like I found today two things, and hopefully this will be improved, is I didn't see all the events in my app because I was looking for a specific group ride. Shout out to Jet Group Ride. I like that group ride. And they like me too. So that's really symbiotic. But it didn't show up until like, 1 minute was left and I'd missed it. So that sucked. And also right now, if you try to do an event, return to your main map that you started in and enter another app or event on the app, it does not show up. You have to exit and then restart your ride before the countdown thing will show up.
Oh,
Yeah. So anyway, I think that's minor for most people who's doing like multiple events in one ride. But anyway, like it doesn't need to be that hard, I don't think, right?
yeah.
Like other video games have tons of events and tons of options, and it's sort of just placed well, and you can click on them and they drop down and show you what you need to know. And
Well,
yeah,
I think some of it speaks to, I mean, I don't think Zwift expected, and I know the pandemic and everything, but like, I just don't think they expected to get as big as they did, even pre pandemic, as quick as they did. And I
that's
don't
right.
think they expected races and rides to be such a high priority for a number of people. I mean, you were on the app when GP Llama was like setting up goofy races and stuff like that, you
Yeah,
know? I mean, Zwift has essentially launched an industry,
yeah,
right? I mean, before Zwift, I hadn't heard of bike trainers.
yeah,
Like I know they existed, but like all the new fancy tech, all the bike trainers, uh, you know, it's one of the DC Rainmaker's most read things, right?
yeah,
GP Llama, Zwift Insider, no breakaways. Like I'm not making money from this, but like, you know, like it's launched this huge ecosystem really, really
yeah.
quickly. I think much more quickly than they anticipated, even in their wildest dreams. And so I don't think they were ready to scale. Like they still don't seem to have their heads around the race scene. You know, I mean,
I'm just
with
I'm just
power.
how big this stuff gets in terms of, because I play Forza Horizon, which is a racing game, car racing game, and it's actually got a similar feel to Zwift because you can drive your car around openly on the map. Obviously, you're not burning any calories, but it's kind of fun. But then there are events that pop up all the time, and people can organize them, and you can join a club. It's like kind of similar, actually,
Yeah.
but with that, it explodes in scale so much. They're running like hundreds, maybe thousands of lobbies at the same time to facilitate all this. And their staff for this game, like Zwift said, what they have 500 employees now. Like these companies have thousands. Like it's a whole warehouse, it's a whole building, right? And
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 that's what,
so I don't think it gets big in a hurry, right?
yeah. And I mean, I think from that perspective, it seems like Zwift is moving in the right direction. And I'm happy
Totally.
that they're trying to move this in the right direction and organize events on that main screen, you know, so I don't have to use the app for every single thing. And like just do some of those things that are not basic, because I know they're really difficult. Like I'm not saying, but like I think all that needs to happen for the ecosystem to open up, and I'm glad they're doing it. And I think the devil's going
Yeah.
to be in the details a little bit on how they do it. Because if they just add a bunch more events, or if they try to push out community run events for, I mean, and granted, the ZHQ races are some of the most popular. They almost always get like 80 people. They're always on Grit
Yeah.
City too. But, you know, I think you gotta, I think there's some sort of balance here on how you do all this. I mean, I think first of all, the
Yeah.
events need to be pared down. Like, I think it
Totally.
should be, your event should be almost like a protected thing where if
Yeah.
you're going to do a group ride at 6 a.m. in the central time, you have one or two group rides to pick from. But right now there's 20 group rides between 5:30 and 6:30.
Yeah, that's right. And there's just you got to condense it somehow without alienating people,
You
right? Because right now there's a C and a D right, and like actually I like this jet ride because they have every category riding at once for the group ride, right? And they start 2 minutes after each other, or something. So it's one event on your thing, and I can pick. Like sometimes I don't want to ride at A A power, right? I want to ride at B power, and it's right there. So maybe they could do more of that and like kind of force a change where events become multi-level. Like I know B and C is where the fat is, right? Like that's where most people want to do their group rides. But they got to consolidate. And if they're going to have stuff like this Swift Academy running every hour, it just sucks. Usually
right.
you flip to those and they have like total 40 people across 5 categories, but there's three of them every hour. And so they suck people away from the group rides, away from the races. And so, yeah, there's a ton of races. Even now, it's starting to be indoor season. I click through the races, like most of them have less than 10 A riders and
Yeah.
like 20 B riders. And so you kind of got to look around and,
Well,
yeah,
I mean, I, Yeah, I think that's the deal, and it'll be interesting to see if they start doing like auto matching or integrating some of the auto
Yeah, yeah,
cap, and also maybe like auto cap the size of fields where it's like a lobby. Once you get 40
yeah.
races available to launch at that time, but then another race at the same time pops up and you can start filling that in the same court, so I think they're I
Yeah.
think they're moving towards that, and I think it's very good for the entire
And
ecosystem.
maybe, and maybe we'll start talking about clubs soon. Maybe the club improvement functionality is going to essentially create those lobbies, right? Because your club, you will be in your club of how many members, and they will have their races. And so you can look in this club or in this club. They're not all racing at the same time. Who knows, though, if that's going to dilute things too much further.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
I, I'm I'm hopeful. I mean, this is the first
yes,
time I've been kind of hopeful about Zwift in a while, because this is one of the things. I mean, these are significant improvements, and I
huge.
think they lead to very significant things potentially for the racing
Yeah,
community, and that's where I'm mainly focused because I think the group riding community is mostly served by what we have now. I think there's improvements and like paring stuff down. You're gonna piss some people off. I get that,
totally.
but not everybody's gonna have a group ride that they can host. The reality of it.
No.
Dirt, they should have some group rides. They got 4,000 people in there. Like,
Oh, and we got pace partners too, right? People say, I need a group at this time. It's like, if you want to ride 2 watts a kilo, there's a pace partner 24 hours a day,
yeah,
and they can improve that big time. Like, that's something it's not a listed item, but the pace partner thing, it's like, it's so limited right now, right? It's on one map on a 20K loop. They could have those running all the time everywhere. I don't know if I mentioned it last week, because I read an interview with Wes, the head Zwift dude, and he's talking about pace partners, and they're still manual.
yeah.
They still put in the stuff manually to set these up. That Zwift does, which is crazy, right?
They're on a person's computer at their house.
Yeah, yeah, setting the parameters for these pace partners, and it's like, so right now, no, you can't have one in London and one in Watopia because a person has to set each one up. It's crazy, but anyway, like, you're covered, I think, if you want to do a group ride at a certain watts per kilogram. So
Yeah.
yeah, we could probably pare it down and have like an exclusive event creator level.
And-
But by God, if they do that right, they better let them actually create events in a
yeah.
timely fashion, right?
Yeah.
Like, that's the other part of this. It's like, we're increasing the interface to make the events work better, and you can pick different events, but you better let people do it efficiently, because, like,
Yeah.
I mean, you're the one that's been come up against it, right? It's so hard right now to make events. So yeah, and an interesting stat I saw in one of the art, I don't think it was in DC's article. As we get into clubs, over the past 12 months, there's been 952,000 meetups created,
Hmm.
which is pretty astounding, actually, right? Because, like, I know I've created quite a few because I run a group ride fitness thing through coaching, but that's a lot. I don't know how they won't tell us how many users there are now, right? But that's probably a pretty good ratio. But then there's only been 50,000 community events, which by comparison is so small, right? But people love community events. So it's like, and so that's the reasoning, I think, is for making this club functionality. Is like, people vastly prefer community events to meetups. Meetups are a pain in the ass, by the way.
Yeah.
Like, it had to
Meetups
work
suck.
so hard with experienced Zwifters to make it work. Like, I got to check with everybody on Zoom. Like, are you in? Do you see this? Do you see that? It's a pain in the butt. Whereas events just run.
Right.
And so, yeah, so they're actually creating the club's functionality. I guess we can get into that now, but for that reason, which, to see the numbers is actually pretty interesting on that.
Yeah. I guess I didn't see that stat, and that's super interesting. I mean, I know I created 30 or 40 meetups with just me, but I mean, I bet you the 50,000 group events have vastly more people in them than the
Yeah,
900,000.
and just higher quality,
Yeah.
just higher quality in general.
Right.
Um, yeah, the meetups. There's the one advantage that I like is the keep everyone together feature. That works well for I have a group of athletes, and some of them are 3 watt per kilo, some are 3.5, some are 1.5. So it's nice to do that. Hopefully they carry that through. But overall, I think you'd rather do an event, right,
Oh
than
yeah,
a meetup.
yeah, yeah.
So.
But I mean,
So clubs
yes,
is clubs is like your thing, Rick. Like you've been asking for this, so like
yeah.
how happy are you?
I think it's really good. I mean, I think it's good that I think what Zwift needs to work towards is there's so much third party stuff because right now teams are on Zwift Power and nowhere else. That's the
Yeah,
reality of it. In the Premier League, in the Premier League, the teams are on Zwift Power.
yep,
Like that's
yeah,
insane. That's
yeah,
insane. That there is no functionality for Saris, No Pins, and all those teams to like have a thing in Zwift.
yeah. I
So
know.
that's you have professional athletes. Ibco. Ibco's on Zwift Power only. That is
Using
insane.
this like web, I mean, I love the folks at Zwift
They
Power.
did
They've done a lot.
awesome.
It
Love it.
is, but the interface is so archaic, right, compared to
Yeah.
what it should and could be. And not blaming them because
No.
they don't have 500 million investment. But it's like, yeah, we kind of deserve better, right? Like
Well, I
the
mean,
amount of
Zwift owns Zwift Power now.
yeah,
And so I'm sure
which
they're going to try to phase it out with some of this club functionality. And it should be. It should be. Like the results, you shouldn't have to sign up for a third party site to get
no,
Zwift results that are meaningful. And you shouldn't have to sign up
yeah,
for a third party site to be in a team on Zwift or to, any of that and to get those stats like you see on Zwift Power.
yeah, it should be in my
Huge,
app.
yeah, huge shout out to, I think, James Hodges and the other person who put it together. And again, like I think it just grew way, way, way quicker than they ever could have expected. So
Yeah,
they had this very basic interface that they probably made 5, 6 years ago or whatever to like quantify these races where you'd start at a random point in Zwift, and then like it grew out of control so quick. They're like, well, we don't really have a way to update to overhaul this now, or the money, or the time, right?
right. Yeah, and even Zwift taking something like that over, it's like, they just bought the keys to a car that they don't know how to drive,
Yeah,
right? Like it's a different thing than Zwift. And you think of the people running Zwift are not racing specialists generally. Maybe they have a couple people that do that, but it's a different thing. There's a lot that you wouldn't understand intuitively that as racers, we know we've used Zwift Power for several years, but yeah, so maybe this club thing will integrate that slowly. That'd be nice. It'd be nice if you could join a team and not go through like a million different random menus and and it'd just be cool, right? It would actually be pretty cool to look at a club and see their riders and their elite team and be like, oh, look who they have. Look at their FTP. They could set it up like a car racing game where you could see the stats of the different riders. And like as a fan, that would be really cool. If I
yeah.
wanted to follow some of my favorite athletes, maybe in the app, I could select them and know when they're racing and see their stats recently and stuff. I could see the world rankings, which is actually a really cool thing to know, but the average Zwifter is not going to go on Zwift Power, search by individual results, that stuff, right? Well, it's a little disconnected. So yeah, I mean, that's maybe an ancillary benefit of the clubs, but like really, it's awesome that clubs can have their own events now, right? And have that control, which is
And
what we've been asking for so long.
yeah, I mean, I'm hoping it doesn't dilute the group rides. The other things I'm
Yeah.
really hoping when you join a club, you get their kit. You just get it. And if you leave a
No.
club, well, I'm
Well, there's a problem there, and this is a Cycling Weekly article. Actually, I read about this. I read the DC one, and then I read another one, and they brought up the very valid gripe that you still don't get to make your own jersey if you're a club. You got to go through the back channels.
so and
So if you have one already, you can get it automatically. I
so
think. I think.
well, and that's the thing. Okay, I get that they don't want to make jerseys for every club. It'd be cool if there was some sort of technology, where you could just make a jersey and buy it and then sell it and stuff like that online. But maybe we'll get to that at some point. But like Maybe we'll get to
That
it
was a
next.
tease.
Maybe
That
we'll
was a
get to it.
tease.
Maybe we'll get to it next week. But the thing about it is, like, Zwift needs to just have a template that you can just draw on. And
Yeah.
I get that they don't want. I get that they don't want to give people carte blanche to make a jersey because you don't want somebody riding around with a wiener right on the back of their. I get that.
Maybe you though. Maybe that'd be awesome.
Well, yeah, it wouldn't be cool for my 9-year-old to walk in and see, but
Yeah.
like,
Okay. So
just
I
like,
actually, yeah. Go ahead.
well, like
I'll let you finish.
just have the template and have some instructions. Here's what you got to do, and then you submit it. Don't think we're going to get to this in 3 months. It's going to be 3 to 6 months before we send you something saying your jersey is approved or not approved. But with the club's functionality, they should tag it to the club.
Yeah.
If the club ends up with no people in it, then you can't get a jersey. If the club only has 2 people in it, you can't get a jersey. If the club has 30 or more people in it, then you can submit your jersey or something like that. Whatever. Like,
Yeah.
and I'm hoping you can be part of multiple clubs too, right? Because that would be super. Like, I mean, there was a time where I was on draft, kind of, and finesse, right? So, like, I'm hoping you can be part of multiple clubs. But again, like,
Yeah, that I think I read that right, that you would be able to join as many clubs as you want, which is that should be yeah, right. You know, there's got to be some spam prevention, right? That you don't just yeah, but on the jersey thing, I think like we're making it way more complicated than it needs to be. I was thinking about this today because it's like actually the coaching thing I do with the group rides, it's a company called Tag, based in Vancouver, hundreds of members, and like a lot of them are on Zwift and we wanted to get the jersey done, but it is impossible,
mhm.
right? It's just not, and we can't make it a club, blah, 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 blah. And it's like, why is it so hard? I thought back, NHL 2001 EA game, you could make your own jersey and they just had templates, right? You could have a stripe here, you could pick the eagle as your thing,
Right.
right? Okay, why isn't there a basic functionality for that? And if you want something super custom, you could submit it only if you have 100 or more riders. Why can't I just do that? And then there's no dicks in the templates, obviously. There's no penises to put on the jersey as a rule. But it could be done and it would be simple and it would make people happy, right? You just got your jersey, you
Right.
got your colors. We don't have to like the interview today that I read on cycling, they had one of the technical guys, the liaisons, and he said, well, that's something we're looking forward to in the future, the customization. And it's like, why do we have to look forward to that? It's just customization. It's not
Well,
complicated.
and that's, to be honest, this is one of the biggest oversights. Cycling people, and I am in this group. So when you listen to this or we're watching this, don't get pissed. We want to buy the new crap.
Yeah.
All cyclists, we get the ceramic speed bearings. Not all cycle, but you get this stuff, even though I'm 30 pounds overweight or whatever. Like, you want the cool jersey. Like, you
Totally.
knew it was coming. Like, day one, you release your product and somebody's like, yo, this is dope. I'm riding around Jarvis Island. And day two, they're going to be like, you know what, man?
Jerseys.
I want a jersey. Exactly. Like, this
It's
is
the
like a
first
day
thing
two
every
thing.
team does. The first thing every team I look at, it's like, oh, what's their jersey like? What are the sponsors? And the sponsors part would obviously be the next level.
Yeah.
But like, why can't I just make a jersey that's stripes and this and has a whatever, right? You
Right.
could just take generic versions of all the popular cycling jerseys. Like you could have a Team Sky stripe that you could put on there, right?
Yep.
It'd be easy. And I can say, oh, it's more complicated than you think, Jordan. No, NHL 2001. It can't be. It can't be.
It can't
And
be
so
that.
actually,
Yeah.
I got an expert comment on this from my wife who is in software, and she said that she would bet that the code for the jerseys is not a generic code right now. And so that every jersey they have to hard code in. So they start from scratch on every one. And so it's like it takes a while, right? Because you have to code each one and it better be worth it because that's going to take someone an hour or something to do it. And so, that's not a very robust method at the moment. And so you'd kind of have to unwind some of the tech to get back to a point where it was easy to do these customizations, but I don't see why they couldn't. And she also commented that that's really a band-aid solution, so she's not a fan of it
Of
as a
your
tech.
solution?
No, same
The
thing with
hard
the
code?
pace partners. It's manual. That's
Oh,
a
yeah, yeah.
band-aid, right? It's
Yeah.
manual. It shouldn't be manual. And she further commented that it may not pass a basic investment tech review with that kind of code. So, Zwift, you've heard it from my wife, who is very intelligent, that you need to up your game on the jerseys. But not to throw out the baby with the bathwater, it is pretty cool that we're going to have clubs, right?
Yeah,
Like,
and I mean, big shout out to Zwift on all this stuff. I think it's all super good. I like the clubs.
yeah.
I like the new.
And
I like that they're doing a new interface. I like that they're like, and I mean, to pile on a little bit maybe, but like these are the sorts of improvements. We don't need them every month, but like we need some chunk every quarter,
yeah,
right? Like
well, yeah,
like there needs to be a cadence like where I know everybody wants new roads, and I like the new race course, but like still 90% of people are riding on Watopia, it seems like. If you gave
yeah,
everybody
totally.
every course option, you're going to get over 50% of people riding on Watopia. So
It's the
like,
average. They have the stat on the average ride length, right? It's like 28K. How
right,
far can you go on the new roads in 28K?
right. And so like, but like these actual game improvements,
Yeah,
creating a racing engine for drafting, I think would be, and I get
please,
that
God.
only 20 or 30% of people race. I understand this. But it's your most hardcore 20 or 30%. Like, goof with it. Like, I was just talking to, or I was just reading about RGT, where they're integrating people's actual ride telemetry and power and speed and all that from around corners to make it more realistic.
Yeah,
And like again, like I don't think it needs to be 100% realistic. I don't even want it to be 100% realistic.
no,
But
just
like
predictable.
yeah, but
And
like the fact that they're doing that to try to make things so that different outcomes can happen is super cool, right? And I'm
yeah,
not saying Zwift needs to go all that way. They don't need my ride data from whoever America's. Well, I didn't write it, but like people's like you don't necessarily need to do that, but like you need to figure out why in the hell did this pack catch this pack in this B race
yeah.
when they weren't
Well,
doing that much more, and like what are the physics that are causing that, and then can we tweak things to make it either harder to catch or at least so that people understand what is happening and how to prevent it.
yeah, exactly. And like to think of it on a scale, RGT is a small company right now. Zwift is a medium large company. Like Zwift, if they wanted to do this, there are millions of public Strava activities, and you could totally search by a certain average speed and pick out races in real life, and you could totally distill this down. And I don't see why not, and try it. Like I said, just try it. Maybe I do not think that road cycling works perfectly virtually. There's just too much, there's breaks, for example, right? But right, it's not really acceptable the way it is. And it doesn't just affect those 20 or 30%. It affects the other 70% that do group rides and stuff too. People bitch all the time on those pace partners because Bowie Brevet, the B rider, will chuck them out the back on the descents, even if you're doing the right watts per kilo, because you get in the weird Zwift elastic and suddenly you're 5 meters back and there's zero draft and right, you just get chucked out and people don't understand it and they get frustrated. Like I can keep there because I know when I want to put the power down to stay in the group. But like people that are even, level 20 still get screwed around on that. And so, yeah, the drafting engine would be nice. I think that's just pretty core to the game, right? I do think that there's a problem though, that if they refine the drafting in a certain way, the speeds of groups will slow down, especially these pace partners and the group rides, and that will make people unhappy.
And that's where I think you need two engines. I truly think you need two engines because group rides, the point of a group ride is to stick together. So you might as well kind of stick everybody together. Not like
Yeah,
in the keep everyone together mode. Like no everybody be pissed about that. But like
yeah,
you can
yeah,
you can and I am like what the hell do I know about any of this? But like in theory you could make that draft go out 30 meters from the back so
yeah,
that people because I know like a lot of times the sweepers do a lot of work to grip people, but like you could do those things, right? In a group ride. And in the when you're just free riding, like I never once have I done anything in the draft free riding other than just like see how low I can go when someone's riding 4 watts per kilogram. But I don't need that. But like you could just have two different engines and think of it as two games, right? I mean,
Or in the
it's
in the early phase, in the early days, we had double draft, right? You
we
could
still
have a
have double
version of
draft. Double draft is
is they
still a
don't
thing.
talk about it. They don't talk, but we could have a double draft for group rides,
Yeah.
right?
Oh
And
yeah.
yeah, because I know this, like I don't know, but I have a pretty good feeling that they don't want to refine the physics in a way that slows because every group kind of, if B and C goes 40K an hour, people like getting their 40K done, putting it on their stats. I like it too, actually. I'll just ride with the B group because hey, I like padding the stats a little bit. It's awesome. But so that there's definitely a stumbling block there. But overall, yeah, much needed update. And I had this thought too, like because we were, Rick and I have been talking this off season. We're pretty pissed off with how Zwift was going. We're pretty desperate for an update, and then all of a sudden, this, oasis in the desert comes. And I know it's difficult to meet deadlines, but why couldn't Zwift have a long-term sort of plan,
Yes.
quarter by quarter, and be like, just generally, we're going to address the drafting in Q2. We're going to do clubs in Q3, and of course we'd understand, and people would not maybe understand, but I would understand if you missed some of them. But it would be nice to know that you were thinking about it, because right now I have no idea what you're thinking about. Like,
It would be really good to know those plans. It'd be really
yeah,
good to release beta features to certain
yeah,
groups. And whether it's I mean, I would love to be a part of some of that stuff, but sure get a lot of your longtime Zwifters in that for sure. Try it. Get some beta races going where you're like, hey, this is like I mean WTRL did that with the AutoCat, which was awesome, awesome, awesome. It was
yeah.
basically
It is.
beta racing. And tons of people were like, "Oh, I'm not winning." Well, of course you're not winning. AutoCat doesn't mean you race against yourself and you win. You doesn't mean putting you at the top of the group. It means you're in a group of
Cool.
people
Let's,
similar to
let's
you.
just be clear about this. If Zwift could make it so that every group went 50K an hour and you won every race, they would do it.
Right. They
But
would, for sure.
we've got a guest host.
Um yeah, we got our guest host here. But yeah, like that's the thing about all this is like we just need to need to keep in mind that like AutoCAD is a certain thing. Like if if technically if you were AutoCADed 100% correctly, your average race finish would be right in the middle. If you
Yeah,
raced it 100 times and there were 100 people in your race, you'd finish 50th on average.
yeah.
No, that's never going to happen because
No,
people are just some
and it
people are
would be
better.
terrible.
It'd be
Thank
horrible.
God it doesn't.
Yeah, it'd be
Yeah,
horrible because like oh, sometimes you win, sometimes you're last. Like oh, I don't know why. Like that's not great. But like yeah, I mean like I thought AutoCAD was great, and I'm glad they rolled out a beta feature to do that and tried it. I'm glad they
yeah,
tried it. I am so happy they tried it. Like I can't say that I would love it if like some of these other features like they rolled out clubs like a year and a half ago or something. Uh and then but like you can't roll it out a year and a half ago and then not put it in more, okay?
yeah. No,
I'm in the show, okay? Sorry. And so yeah, my daughter Raylia,
I
couple
mean,
minutes.
maybe she just sniffs the level of amateurism that we have here and
Yeah,
is
yeah,
like,
it
it's not
really
really a show.
yeah.
I can show up whenever I want.
Yeah, and
And
now she's drawing on the whiteboard in the background. There's a chicken up there.
nice.
Um,
Perfect.
yeah,
Yeah,
so
yeah. So timeline, right? Timeline would be great, and it would be great if in each quarter they're like, "Oh, we're going to play around with this. There'll be beta for this."
yeah,
I would log in on the Zwift all year just to play with stuff if they
for
had
sure.
those beta events.
100%.
Yeah,
And I mean,
I think a lot of people
I
would.
think you have your beta testers, and I mean, obvious, like I don't think it's a stretch to say that you and me would probably be ideal beta testers because we obviously
Well,
put a lot of time into Zwift, right? Like, I mean,
yeah,
we made a channel, we do a show all the time about it. The number of texts me and Jordan send about Zwift, and like, irate, he's received a couple of irate phone calls from me about lack of Zwift updates. Like,
progress.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like Jordan's at Zwift Worlds, like these are, Jackie too, right? Like these are people who we care deeply about this product. Like I'm deeply invested in Zwift and virtual racing because it's given me, and I'm very thankful to Zwift, by the way. Like, but like it's given me an outlet to be competitive, to get in shape. I mean, I've lost 25 pounds since I started Zwift. Like I'm in much better shape. My life is better because of Zwift, and like so, like
Yeah. I mean, yeah, for me, it prolonged my career probably through the pandemic. So it's a pretty big deal. And yeah, so but there's many like us, right? We've got
yep.
literally dozens of viewers that feel the same way. So they'd always have people to test these
We
things.
normally get like 200 views of the show, and then when I release the podcast, and I apologize to everyone that I have not. I've just been like swamped with this new job and everything. But now you're gonna get 3 podcast episodes. I'll release them like 3 days in a row. It'll be like Christmas in
Yeah.
October.
Oh, and you should apologize face for radio. So really that's my format is the podcast.
I know. Well,
So
that's the nice thing about having you and me on here is like you have the radio face, and I'm basically, like I tell my wife, I should have been a trophy husband. So
that's the money maker right
yeah, I
there.
know
You just call that the money
this is
maker.
it. This is it.
That's a cash register.
All right.
So
Oh, so
yeah,
the promised drama. Everyone noticed today that if you went to the pairing screen, your speed stayed the same in Zwift. And there was
right.
all this chitter chatter about how the TTT today, WTRL TTT, people were just going to be blasting at 450 watts the whole time,
Correct.
which
Yeah, I mean,
I thought was
that's a
funny.
pretty embarrassing one to let through. Of all the ones to let through, and like Rick and I are talking, I do some QA for Emily's software, just testing stuff. I can't do much in life, but I can break stuff perfectly well, and that's my job there. And to think that they did an update with presumably many different factors, and they didn't bother to ride it and press the pairing screen is kind of hilarious. I mean, what do we know? But that's a funny one of all the bugs, right?
Like
And
I saw a
you know,
video. I saw a video. Some guy was live today, Jonathan Crane, where he was like, "Let's try out the bugs," which cracked
yeah,
me up. Cracked me up.
yeah. Oh, that's good times. And like and maybe a good button on the update thing. Like I am much happier to have bugs if it's something new and exciting
Yeah.
than bugs you fixing whatever the hell you fix. I don't know what you did. I just know you broke some stuff along the way. So yeah, I tried a U-turn on today, and it did not U-turn. It locked the U-turn function, and I was stuck at 22k an hour, which is the U-turn speed, perpetually. So that I guess that's probably part of the pairing screen freeze, but yeah, less hilarious when you don't or more hilarious when it's the same old stuff. And like
Yeah.
I think we'd be accepting of some bugs with the new update because
Yeah.
it's exciting
And there
and
will be
cool.
bugs, and it's
Yeah,
okay. I'm
I'm
happy.
okay with it. I mean, Forza Horizon has bugs. It's $1 billion game, right? It's all the games have bugs.
Yeah.
So, but they are rolling out new stuff all the time. So that's cool. And yeah, I just have Zwift Worlds on here. We had a little announcement about that, and then we can wrap her up.
Let's let's skip the world. We talked about
We should
worlds a little
have
bit
Jack.
last week.
We
What
should have Jackie on
I
for
don't know
that.
when Jackie's gonna come back because she's working from like 3 p.m. to 3 a.m. or something crazy. She's working
Why?
nights, and so like she's sleeping during the day. But we're gonna get like let's talk about worlds a little more when we get some other guests on here. I'd
Yeah,
rather have. I mean, I intend to make B worlds this year, but that's about it.
nice. Well, but
Jokes.
you're saying there's a chance.
Yeah,
Rick
60% of the
is going to
time.
be world champion 2022.
Yep, yep. I'll
No,
just use if I can use the pairing screen bug. Um,
yeah,
so no, let's talk about worlds some other time. We're at an hour. This is a good
yeah,
time.
we're good.
We could talk
And
for a long time.
and we'll just tease next week. We have some nerdy stuff with RGT that Rick is very excited about.
Just
That
truly unbelievably excited about. 100%.
yeah, there you go.
I'm a
So
nerd.
look forward to that. And yeah,
Little teaser. Tune in to hear me talk about boring crap next week.
Yeah.
That's the no breakaways motto.
Hey, you know how to sell, man. You know how
I
to
know. That's I'm
sell.
a salesperson actually. So yeah, I got it. I
Yeah,
got
you
it.
got it. You got it.
Yeah, all right. Well, so Jordan Shane, peak form coaching, elevate Webaplex. What am I missing?
Nothing. That
Nothing.
is, it can be reduced to those two statements.
Yeah,
That's it.
yeah, yeah. And yeah, Rick here at No Breakaways, and that is it. So thank you all for watching. Really, really happy to have you all here, and we will see you next time.